Let's continue. Next we have retrieve position data and calculate number of building segments. And this is where the main part of the work is going to be done. Let's indent with 4 as well and work underneath there. So first I'm simply going to say position is point.position. Remember, we are still working inside our for loop, right? So we're doing everything inside for point in points. So that's why position is point.position works for every single point. For point in points, position is point.position. So for every point in geo.points, I want you to fetch its position. And this is where the math module comes in. I'm going to sort of calculate roughly how many segments fit inside the building height. So we're going to say number of building copies. It's a bit of a long variable name, but at least it's obvious what it is. And this is going to be an integer value because it's not going to be 1.2 or 1.3. It's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 copies. So int, open and close brackets, math.floor. So anything that comes out of the following function is going to be floored, so rounded down. And we're going to be dividing the skyline height by the building height. So now what's happening is every base section will be cross-checked against the skyline height, and what it then does is it retrieves a value of how many times that section fits into there. For the next for loop that we're going to be doing, a nested for loop, we need a value to pass into. Let's also set up a counter and initialize it to 0. And this will become obvious later why we need this counter. Let's indent create new points by 4 and work underneath there. So we don't want to stack the houses, so we're going to be opening with an if statement. If building ID is bigger than 10, that's 1. Colon, indent 4. For each in range, and this is where this number comes in, number of building copies. So say that the number of base segments that fit into the skyline height is 10, it's going to run this for loop 10 times at least. Now you'll see my node erroring, and this is because I clicked outside of the node, forcing it to compile without giving my for loop something to do. So the code is fine, it's just expecting me to tell it what to do. And until we do that, it's going to look like it's erroring. So inside this for loop, I'm going to be adding a while loop. While loops are somewhat dangerous in the sense that if their conditions are not met, they will keep on going and run you out of RAM and crash everything you're running. So it's a good idea now to save your Houdini scene before to continue. And if it then crashes, you can simply open where you left off and try and do it correctly. Let's just type out this line first. Make sure you have 4 spaces of indentation. So while the total height of the building is less than the skyline height minus the top section height, so we're going to retrieve it from the building height dict, minus, let's space that out, building height dict, building ID top. I'm going to see if I can expand this for a bit. Yep. So that you have a better view of what's going on in the code. So we have a while loop starting with while total height is less than skyline height minus building height dictionary building ID top. So what this does is this retrieves the height value for the top section. And this is because I'm going to exit the while loop or break the while loop as soon as the total height value exceeds the skyline height minus the top section height. If we don't do that, or if you would, for example, just do skyline height alone, it will keep adding points or building sections until that skyline height is met and then add a top section, which means that our buildings will always be taller than the skyline height. By subtracting it from the skyline height, I will make sure that my top section gets added as the last section before that total height is met. We'll continue with this in the next clip.